Life goes on.
Sorry, what did you say? Life without Jack? Life without Tysan? What kind of life is that?
Hey,
We don't even know if they're still alive.
they're alive somewhere. You can feel it.
I have lost everyone I was ever close to, and all anyone can keep saying is that life is getting back to normal. So do me a favor, Lex. Take that old mall rat spirit and shove it.
Welcome to Series 4, Episode 7 of Conversation on Eagle Mountain, a podcast about the tribe. I'm your host, Lance, and joining the podcast panel today is Liz.
Hello.
And Tamsin,
Hello.
with episode notes done by Matt and myself. So Series 4, Episode 7, the screenplay was done by Andy Smith, it was directed by Julian McSweeney, and the episode synopsis read out by Liz.
Released by the Technos, SALENE and PRIDE ponder their motives and Ebony's part in it all, while JAVA and SIVA's thoughts also turn to their sister. Lex is assigned a chaperone, and Ellie becomes frustrated by the new normal. I just want everyone to know that I've been daydreaming about season 1.
I wondered when you were gonna.
Seriously, this is usually in my rewatch when I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna go back to stuff that I really enjoy watching, and it was strong on my mind all last week, you guys. Like I could weep for season 1.
It's weird because because I came in towards the end of season 3 with you guys. I still feel energized around season 4 because I'm like, season 3 was so bad when I came in that this is already an improvement. So I've not got that fatigue.
It happens to me every time I try to do
Yeah.
to binge the show. This is where it happens in season 4. I'm like, you know what? I give up. I'm out. I don't care. I don't care where this is going. I just want to start from the beginning again. And that's part of why I've never really made it through season 4, because I'm just like, yeah, I'm gonna go back to what I enjoy. Bye.
No, I know what you mean. It's a million light years away from the quality that we got in season 1. It feels, I mean, it does at this point feel like a completely different show, just with characters that have the same names as the people and they're played by the same people, but it's different.
If you know what's good for you, you'll just stay away.
Ellie, and don't, whatever you do, tell me how much you care or that we need each other or any of that, please. Just leave me alone.
Still affected by the loss of Jack, Alice, and Luke, Ellie can't understand how the city can be returning to a semblance of normal life. Coupled with the bad behaviour of the kids, she is driven to new levels of despair, thinking she's a curse on anyone who gets close to her. So yeah, this has been going on for a few episodes now, but yeah, what do you make of the recent portrayal of Ellie's mental health?
I think in the last episode that I was in, we talked about the way that although Ellie obviously lost her parents, there was always Alice there to give her that stability, and that it feels like Ellie is now plunged into the level of grief that the other characters experienced back in season 1 and have worked through. But she's always had someone there to protect her. She's always had a guiding star with Alice. And I think her seeing the city getting back to normal and sort of Lex being his pragmatic self, because I think this underscores that Lex is pragmatic about things. And in a way, the difference between what happened to Zandra and what happened to Tysan is that Zandra died. Tysan is still alive out there somewhere. There's still some sort of element of hope to this. And admittedly, he kind of goes, well, the city's going back to life and it's all going back to normal. But for her, I think there's a horror in that because she's now lost Jack, she's lost Alice, she's lost Luke, and for the first time, she is on her own.
Hmm.
I just want to give Jennifer a gold star.
Mm.
She carried this entire episode, and she was the only one whose emotional like journey I cared about in this episode. I just felt like she was speaking my thoughts a lot of the time. What the frick is going on? Like the way Lex approaches her in the marketplace, like it's just any regular day.
Mm.
And she's
Mm.
like, I'm sorry, what? You know what I mean? Like, I thought we were on the same page of what we were feeling here, Lex.
Mm.
And you're talking to me like nothing has happened whatsoever. And even later, when Selene asks, have you guys seen Ellie? And Lex is like, oh, not since this morning at the marketplace. She seemed off, and I couldn't figure it out. What do you mean you couldn't figure out if she was off?
Huh?
Like, what? Why is this a question of why she'd be upset? Just because you've just moved on. You know what I mean? There's a lot of legs out there to spread. I don't understand why that should be confusing to you that Ellie's not in the best mood, that
Mm.
she seems off. Like, you'd have to ask yourself, gee, I wonder what's eating her. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, if I were Ellie, I would feel the same way. I would look at everybody with that kind of disgust. I mean, any of us
Mm.
who've lost somebody, and the hardest part after losing that person is realizing that the world's going to keep turning without them.
Yeah.
And it's like, it doesn't seem right that the sun has risen again and that you have to go back to work and that people are still driving around and going to doctor's appointments. And you're just like, why life should stop because they're not here. It doesn't make any sense. It messes with your sense of mortality. You know what I mean? And then there's the greatest fear of all. Eventually I'm going to get used to them not being here, and that scares me so much. I don't want to get used to life without them in it, and so I really felt Ellie in this episode. I was just like,
Yeah.
why is everyone acting like she's the one who's off when she's having the most realistic reaction to this
Yeah.
than anybody?
Yeah. No, I completely agree because she's the through line, emotional line that you actually follow. And like you say, she is the one having the most believable reaction to all of this. And continuity, I would say. They've remembered the way she feels from one episode to the next.
I
Because,
know.
Oh.
you know, a lot of the continuity has been, like we mentioned, Lex. And I think
Mm.
not only has the continuity been all over the place, but it feels like since the end of, I would say, season 3, his IQ has been dialed down, Because, yeah, Lex couldn't read, but he was never. He was never a stupid character. He always caught on quite quickly to what was going on. And yes, he could be outfoxed by people like Amber, for instance,
Mm.
but he's never been this stupid and this sort of out of touch with what is going on around him. It just feels like he's been dialed down significantly in this season.
Yeah.
And I guess it's because, I mean, this is going back to season 3, but when we had that scene with Ned and Lex and they were asleep on the floor, and we talked about the similarities between their characters. And it feels like now we've lost a lot of comedy characters. We've lost Ryan, who we didn't consider him to be a comedy character, but the writers kind of made him always the butt of every joke. We've lost Ned, who was definitely like a sinister comedy character. It feels like Lex is now filling some of that void, and it's detrimental to his character.
And it doesn't help because he's not even funny. Like, it's not even being played for laughs.
Yeah.
He's just clueless. Like, I can handle him not caring how Ellie feels. I can handle Lex being a pragmatist. I can't handle Lex seeing Ellie upset at the marketplace and acting like he literally can't fathom what's wrong with her.
Mm.
What could
Yeah.
be upsetting her right now?
It's so strange. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It's like from one episode to the next, they just keep changing his continuity and or his
Mm.
kind of development. Like this is Lex, who, like we said many times before, stormed into the mosquitoes to go and grab Ellie and rescue her. Like,
Yeah.
how can he not feel anything at that moment for Ellie? It doesn't make no sense, like in any sort of way.
Like Liz said, they've had that connection. They were the only two that really seemed to care what had happened to their loved ones. Now, admittedly, they were a lot closer to this than everyone else, excluding Pride, who, obviously had some concern for May. He's not a monster, but he's not emotionally invested in her as Lex is with Tysan, or Alice, Ellie is with her sister and her boyfriends. I'm going to put plural boyfriends. And they seemed like they were connected on this emotional level. Both of them were worried about the people that they cared about. And then the writers are like, actually, no, because we've got this whole other idea for Lex. So we need to kind of pivot away from that now. And
Yeah.
I completely agree with what Liz said about that.
So yeah, I didn't enjoy watching Ellie spiral. My heart breaks for her, but I enjoyed Jennifer's performance. I was very convincing, and like when she walks into her room and the kids are just trashing it.
Mm.
All I could hear was you guys going, "You didn't like Mouse at first?" And I yelled at the screen, "No, I didn't like Mouse at first.
You
Little
know what?
monsters."
I had forgotten all of these things they used to do.
Yeah. No,
Oh,
it's really, it's like you rewrite stuff in your head like we did with Pride,
Yeah,
you know?
I didn't realize how bad they were initially.
Yeah. And
rats.
how
Oh my.
irritating they were. You just want them out of the way. They're getting in the way of the story.
I felt for her reaction. She couldn't even yell at them. She literally disassociated.
Yeah.
And I thought it was a nice mirroring of when Jack came back to find his whole world destroyed and he's alone.
Mm.
Ellie's like, "Oh, you should settle down, da da da," because she doesn't want to be around him, and everybody's just preoccupied. And he goes back to his room, and his room is trashed, and he just stands there for a minute, looking at it like, "How do I even begin to clean this up?" You know what I mean? And I thought it was just a great visual of what his world must feel like in his mind, And so Ellie having her room, her possessions destroyed, and immediately just like all she can do is cover her ears and lose it. I thought, again, it's a very nice visual representation of what she must be feeling inside. Yeah, it's just stuff at the at the end of the day, like if you
Yeah.
really just, it's just stuff. But what that must feel like to have even this being destroyed, even this being taken from her. She can't even retreat to her room in peace because that's been taken from her. There's no place Ellie can go to find comfort in any of this. You know what I mean? And so yeah, I was just like, Jennifer owned this episode, and I really I don't think I've ever had a desire to hug Ellie. I don't hate her like other people do, but I've never felt like that close to Ellie. And
Mm.
I wanted to hold her so badly in this because I was like, wow, like I just, oh, sweet girl, you poor thing. I'm literally just watching someone's mind unravel, and there's nothing I can do to help her. And it just broke my heart. It really did.
I would also say the fact that Ellie is having this reaction, I think also speaks to the nature of her relationship with Alice, where she was always protected to some extent. And the blows have been softened for Ellie by Alice. And I think that is also really interesting that whoever is writing these scenes really understands their relationship as sisters and has tried to put that into what's going on with Ellie, and I think it's some of the best writing that we've got so far.
Yeah,
It's,
even if
it's a
they
highlight for
didn't
sure.
Yeah, even if they didn't understand the real relationship between Ellie and Alice, since it was massacred in season 3, and these guys clearly
Mm,
are not reviewing earlier seasons to have an understanding of these characters. Somebody at least understood what this loss could feel like,
yeah,
and really injected that. Um, and instead of it made Ellie feel so genuine what she's going through rather than, we get it. She has to play the Selene role now. You know what I mean? Because Selene's got to be the Amber or Danny role right now. And
mm,
Yep.
it could have come across as very, oh, we've seen this before. There's got to be the one character who's falling apart. And yet it doesn't feel that way at all.
no,
Um, Somebody really was writing from experience as they were, deciding how Ellie was going to be taking this and got the lowdown on what her future path is meant to be. and took that very seriously. And so yeah, it's definitely a highlight because it was coming from a very real place, I felt.
Mm.
I even like the way she's talking to Selene. She's not snapping at her. She's not yelling at her. She's very aware, and I felt, like I said, I've grieved. I've lost people. And Ellie was literally saying things that have come out of my own mouth. Like, I don't want to hear it. I get it. I know we've all lost somebody. I don't, there's nothing you can say to me, Selene. Okay. And, everybody, I can't just move on. I know that's what everyone's doing, and maybe I'm just being selfish, wallowing in my grief, but this is where I am, okay? Like, and like, even having the presence of mind to be able to simply voice her her feelings without screaming or acting out or anything like that. And I was like, Jennifer, applause.
Mm.
Unfortunately, the episode kind of nosedives from here for me anyway. Just.
You're not the only one.
You're sick, you know that? We had a deal.
Sure, I kept my end of it.
What? You told your men to hurt me.
I didn't tell them anything. The attack was real on both sides.
Ebony meets with Jay, furious at having been injured during the attack. So yeah, panel, what did you make of the interplay between Jay and Ebony and the kind of upcoming relationship that you can see brewing between the two?
I mean, they're still as hot as ever, let's be honest. The only thing that I took away from that scene is the fact that their chemistry is off the chart, really. You can tell that she is interested in him and he's intrigued by her.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that...
I did love that shot. I thought that was a nice shot of his profile, and then her in the background in the doorway. I appreciated that shot. I did. I thought that was just a really great framing of the two of them. He doesn't even bother to look over at her. He's just staring and like, you're late. The way she's just in the doorway. It's like just featuring her beautiful figure and all that. I was like, this is wild. I was like, that's a great shot. I really appreciated that. And the way they circle each other. It's very Pride and Prejudice.
It is.
It's too like, I mean, I've always been a Jay and Ebony fan, and I liked them from the jump, Yes, I've talked about ways their relationship could have been improved and made it even better, but I do like this pairing, and it's moments like, so I just was like, these two are perfect for each other. Like, I hope this goes somewhere. I hope this is going where I think it's going. Because it was the way they're talking to each other and their attitudes and their disregard for people. I was like, oh my gosh, has Ebony finally met the one? Like, I really hope so.
Well, I've got to be honest. I never saw the Ebony Jay thing. I never shipped it. I was like, oh, I don't really. But seeing it again, I'm like, I get it. I get it now.
Yeah, I definitely enjoyed their interplay. And there's a callousness that they both share. Like, usually I can't stand when it's like a person's basically just dating themselves, you know what I mean? 'Cause it's just like twice the irritation or whatever. But yeah, I was like, finally, Ebony's talking to somebody who's just like her. And so many, I don't know, I just felt like finally her energy wasn't being wasted on a character who's not on her level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
And I was just really intrigued by that. Even though I'm not saying that this is like Ebony at her best or anything,
Mhm.
but I still just really I felt hopeful that they were gonna do something with Ebony's character, like give her somebody to really play off of, who it's not gonna be some unrequited thing. I had hopes, and this is one of those conversations where I felt it. And I felt it again today. Like, oh yes, here we go. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it again inside.
Ram, Ebony has to go.
She what?
She's poison. Do it now and get it over with.
Do away with your own flesh and blood? Now there's a new one.
This is different. She'll destroy us all.
It's true.
I'm intrigued. Tell me what she's done to earn such a reputation.
You'll just have to trust us on this one.
Java tries to be upfront with Ram, but realizes that he's only going to get more interested in her and changes tack, instead plotting with a more hesitant Siva to get rid of Ebony quietly. So yeah, panel, what did you think of our first proper dive into the characters of Java and Siva and their relationship with each other and Ebony?
I thought it was a nice character beat to show us the dynamic between Java and Siva, and to establish which of the sisters is the dominant force in that relationship. Even when dealing with Ram, Java seems to have a much better grasp of how to deal with Ram. You could see Siva, like when Ram's there in the conversation, Siva is barely keeping up, and she's looking back and forth as if she's looking for her cue as to how she's supposed to answer any question or any statement, and is not sure of herself. You know what I mean? Where like Java knew when to bring it up and when to drop it, and so I thought that was just an important thing to know about the sisters going forth. That Siva is clearly the most passive of the three of them. And it also gives you some inkling of how they ended up with Ram. This was not Siva's idea at all. It's just not where Siva wanted to be, which again, she will reiterate in the future. This is Java's call. Java is the one who's decided this was best choice for their survival. And Siva is just along for the ride. And she's constantly looking at her sister for her cues of what she's supposed to do and say next. And that's a big important part of her character and her journey that she's going to have to go on. So I liked it for that. It felt genuine and sincere, the two talking to each other. I thought their interplay was good, and their chemistry as sisters. And also you get that idea as soon as like Ram, he's intrigued by another set of siblings that he can play with, you know, and not like he cares on any deep level. He just finds it amusing. Like, oh, what a terrible thing to
Yeah.
say about your sister. And Java immediately going, oh, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry I even brought this up to you. She's like, oh crap. You know what I mean? And it makes me wish that they had been more consistent with what motivates Java through this next season and a half.
Yeah.
Because she's going to be all over the map as to what it is she wants. You know, I'll get into it later, but this is a nice moment that sets the stage. That Java is willing to be straightforward with Ram about something she's serious about, but also is so used to dancing around him, knows when she's got to drop a subject, and can't be as vulnerable with him as she'd like to. You know, and then but I do think, unfortunately, it builds up more than we're delivered, as because you're at this point you're like, okay, what did Ebony do to them that is so horrible that they're basically talking about wasting her? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you want to know, because we know Ebony's done some horrific things. So I'm like looking at the list of her crimes and thinking, whew, what did she do to them? Did she throw them off a boat to die at sea? Like, I'm thinking, what did she do? So when I'm gonna find out what she did, I'm gonna be like, really?
That's such a
Really?
letdown.
That's the worst that
No, you're
she did
absolutely
to you.
right.
Okay.
This was build up that this is going to be some huge thing that she had done to her sisters to break them apart. And it's like, I mean, really? That it? Like,
Yeah.
really? Oh, come on.
Isn't that the kind of story of Java and Siva, though? There's a lot of build up, but the payoff is not what we were expecting or as good as we were expecting, which is a shame because they are really interesting characters when you let them breathe and you give them interesting stuff to do.
Oh yeah, Java is the worst excuse for script padding I've ever seen. Like, at the end of the day, when you sum up her character, it was just like, what a waste of potential she was. You know what I mean? Like, that's why I hate Java as a character. It has nothing to do with the actress.
No.
It has nothing to do with her actions. You know what I mean? It's just that at the end of the day, she didn't even make sense as a character whatsoever. She was a waste of my time, and
Yeah.
the actress deserved better. And it was like, you had a font of material, could have made Java memorable. And gosh, I hate her more than Ned. You know what I mean? Like, he served a purpose.
Really?
You know, like I hate wasted potential like that. And but this is one of those promising scenes that won't deliver, but it does at least give us something about how the sisters interact with each other and Ram, and hints that, again, this SIVA wouldn't be here if she didn't want to.
Yeah.
And so when later she confirms that, I believe it because they showed it to me first.
Yeah, and I think it also underscores the tension between Ram and the two girls, but also that Java has this connection to him because she immediately drops it, and Siva's a bit oblivious. And we're going to see that play out. But like you say, it's such a missed opportunity. It's so sad. It's so depressing when you see them because you're like, especially when you see them in these early stages. And it feels like, oh, we've got new toys to play with and we've got these new characters. But yeah, Java's just Ebony Light, but dialed down in terms of anything that makes sense. And it's a shame.
I was just going over how disappointing the final reveal is. I was just like, oh,
Yeah,
what a
it is
waste.
disappointing. I mean, I'm not getting into the fact that Siva finally gets to like stand on her own 2 feet, then they get her back with Lex, then they kill her off. I've not forgiven them for that, really. I mean, the best thing that could have happened to Siva is if she'd stayed in the saloon with Ruby and they'd run it together as like friends.
Mhm.
But no, oh well.
They would have had a lovely lavender marriage.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or maybe not Lavender. I can see why neither of them would want a boyfriend after all this.
Honestly, this is just it's a scene with a lot
Uh,
of potential, is what I can say about this. And
Yeah,
it doesn't in the end, it doesn't live up to its potential. There's a lot of promises
yeah.
being made in this scene that do not come to fruition and are just a disappointment in hindsight. But this scene by itself, I actually do like, and I think it's doing a lot of showing and not telling
yep.
really well. And it's a shame what comes later. But there's just so much promise in this scene, and I like the sisters together, and Java has she has so much promise in this scene. Ugh, sucks. Though I do wonder, like, there's also because there's a follow-up scene with the girls. Now, in this moment, Java's like she gets Siva to agree they must do something about Ebony, and then but it's clear that Siva is reluctant. She's like, "Ugh, I just don't know. I mean, she is our sister. I mean, they don't say the really, you know what I mean? But like, she's making it clear that she's not 100% on board with getting rid of her, but she's agreeing because Java's right. She'll be trouble for us. And then they flip a coin to see who has to go deal with her or whatever. And I just thought that was weird that Java would even leave that up to Siva. And I couldn't help but wonder, is that hinting at how manipulative Java is with Siva and
Mm.
making her complicit in whatever it is Java wants to do? Like, was that a purposeful thing? Was somebody thinking about that? Because obviously in future we'll see just how manipulative and emotionally abusive Java is to Siva and how she does make Siva complicit in the things she wants to do, regardless of how Siva feels about it. And obviously later we see how Siva is basically bullied by both of her sisters and forced into taking sides for her own survival at any given time.
Mm.
And so that flipping of the coin, when this is Java's idea, she's the one who wants it to get done. Why would you take the chance that Siva can't go through with whatever it is, or that she'll mess it up because she's not confident and not 100% on board? And I couldn't help but wonder, was that carelessness or was that hinting at the fact that this is what Java does with Siva to keep her in line to do what she wants?
Oh, it's an
Mm.
interesting perspective because when I originally watched it and then watched it again, I thought it was kind of more like both girls were just so disgusted with Ebony. They neither wanted to like track her down and see what she was doing, but that actually makes a lot of sense, what you just said.
Yeah, it's an interesting take on it.
Yeah, I just thought they were both like, I don't want to see her kind of thing, but no, that makes a lot more sense.
Do we think we're giving too much credit to the writers there,
Well,
though?
that's what I said. Like, if I think if someone was actually considering it, it would be an awesome way of showing that Java, because again, they're gonna show us in the future that Java's this way. They don't hold back on showing how manipulative
Mm.
she can be towards Siva and pushing her to do things she doesn't want to do. So it'd be great if that's what this was hinting at. You know what I mean? That again, if I'm Java and I'm dead set that our sister needs to be dealt with and that we got to do it without getting Ram's attention, this means I can't afford any f ups on this. I'm doing it myself. I just need to know that Siva's got my corner. You know what I mean? Got my back.
Yeah.
Gonna be my alibi. I can trust her to do that. I'm not gonna trust her with going out and tracking her sister down. She's gonna screw it up because her head's not in the right place and she doesn't really want to do it in the first place. And I want to make sure it gets done. I'm just saying, if I was Java, there would be no coin flipping. You know what I mean? But if I'm Java, who wants to keep Siva in my pocket and control what she does and make sure she can't ever weasel out and say, well, it wasn't my idea because she played a part in it, then maybe I would flip that coin so that she is part of it. She's complicit. We did this together, sis. You know what I mean?
I did find it funny how they used the M's to do that. Why are you carrying vert coins around?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was confused by that. I was thinking, what?
Have they become collector's items already? I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like the last time we see an M, so.
Believe me, I know how you feel. I was against the raid on the Technos because I couldn't bear to lose any more of our people. As it turned out, I was badly beaten myself. I'm for cooperating. And if there's any one of you out there with a better plan, then let's hear it. I'll stand down and that person can be city leader. Then I say we start rebuilding our lives. I say we start today!
Jay and Ved watch on impressed, while SALENE and PRIDE, who kind of may as well just be Amber and Bray in the scene, remain suspicious of her motives. So yeah, any thoughts on Ebony's speech? And yeah, the way the crowd easily accepted this new status quo.
So I'm gonna ask Liz a question. So Liz, I know that you often do a ranking of best speeches for Ebony. Where would you put this one?
This doesn't even get in the barrel of best speeches. Are you kidding me? This is
I knew you were
garbage.
gonna say that.
I mean, it's okay. We already know bottom of the barrel Ebony's speech is the one she gave to the kids the day after the invasion. And we're like, I'm a mall rat. We've always taken care. That's the worst speech. There's no speech that's ever going to top that one. Okay, it's the worst thing that's ever come out of anyone's mouth to rally the troops. But this isn't really that much better. You know what I mean? It's still, and it doesn't. It's not just her speech. Okay, it's the crowd.
Yes,
it's
that's
the
what
crowd.
makes it worse.
Like you spend the whole entire speech, the crowd grumbling at what she says, and then she says one sentence and they're cheering. I'm like, you guys have gotten so lazy. Like, I know that the tribes don't exist anymore. I know that they stopped existing back in season 3. I know, but like, this didn't feel realistic at all. I mean,
No.
it's a stopgap. It's just to move everything forward. You know, that's all it is.
Mm.
And I'm sure on paper it sounds great. Ebony, talks to the masses and they're not happy, but she convinces them. On paper that sounds fine. But then when you see it in action, you're like, what? Okay. Fine. Like I understood it when she was at the mall talking to the tribe leaders. You know what I mean? But I just
Yeah.
this mass idea that everybody in the city is just like,
It's just gonna, go,
I don't have a
okay.
better idea. Yeah, you're right. Let's just move on. Cooperation's the name of the game.
And
at
then
least in
cheer. Like,
yeah,
not even
and
just, okay,
cheer.
cheer. Like, come on.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she spoke true.
Like even in the mall, she at least was offering an alternative. It was a lame alternative, but you could understand it because she made it clear we're not giving up. We're waiting. We're going to be biding our time. We're going to gather information about these people
Mhm.
until we know how to fight back. You can at least understand why that would assuage the leaders into backing down momentarily. She offers these guys nothing here in this speech. There is no reason I could see why the majority of them who were literally just grumbling would be like, yeah, you're right. You changed my mind with that one sentence about cooperation. Let's move on, But then again, I thought it was weird that the episode starts with people in the marketplace like nothing has happened.
Mhm.
They're
True.
just out there doing what they got to do. So I'm like, this city just has amnesia. Nobody cares except for the few characters we follow. They're the only ones who have stake in the game. They're the only ones who
Yeah.
care, and they barely care. So, I mean,
Ah.
this was bad. It's bad, bottom of the barrel. lame. Are we ever going to get a good speech again? Like, now I feel like we were much too harsh on Bray and his speeches. We were
Oh,
too
now
hard
come
on
on
him.
now. You're
No, we
talking
were.
crazy.
We were too hard. Bray, I miss you. I want you back already. I'm so sorry. I defended you, and even I was sick of looking at your face, and I want you back so bad.
In
Please come
comparison,
back.
yeah, the
Please.
Ebony speeches are just.
Ugh, it's a waste of time.
Ooh.
It's just exposition. It's literally all this should have said is we're moving on. That's all we're moving on.
Yeah, literally, just like it should have been a hell of a lot more. Like we've lost loved ones, you've lost people. Like this simple line from Ebony should not have just been okay. Yeah, we're gonna accept it and cheer and support you. It's like no, this isn't it. This is
Like
not.
we're eager to move on.
Yeah.
Like we just needed someone to tell us that's what we're doing. It's like writers. I
Yeah.
understand. This is what the show needs to be now. I get that. But at least put some effort into convincing me.
Make a little bit of effort to get us there. Like don't just like snap your fingers and we're there.
I'd also say that it actually underplays what an interesting character Ebony is and how she is able to turn situations around.
Yeah.
And we're not getting that. We're just like, here, Ebony's going to give a rousing speech. Did you feel roused? Not really. And when you think about that amazing speech she gave all the way back in season 2, when she had to turn the mob towards the mole rats, she had to make them back off, and she had to support the mole rats, and and also that it was at great cost to herself because she was going through that emotional turmoil. She came
that was
in.
amazing.
It was, and it was a great character study, and it was one of those bits where you're like, actually, I am actually really interested in Ebony. She's a fascinating character, because the minute she'd done it, she kind of collapsed again emotionally. But when you think this is capturing a new audience, don't just give us these awful, Ebony's the one that gives the speeches. She's the great leader. Everybody show us why. Get the new audience to engage with her the same way you did in season 2. That's what I want.
Yeah.
I want that again.
She's not going to earn her greatness ever again.
No.
She's just coasting off of the greatness she once had, which I can understand why an audience who knew the great Ebony would stick around, but I don't know why any new audience member would be intrigued by her character.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to think about that. If you didn't know 3 seasons of Ebony, this was your introduction to her, season 4. Do you think people would love her as much if they only had seasons 4 and 5 to go off of?
I can't
No, I don't
see
think
that.
so.
No, I really can't struggle to see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Same thing with Lex. Lex is a beloved fan favorite. But if you don't have the first 3 seasons to back that up, do you think
there's
he'd be a
no
fan
way.
favorite based on just seasons 4 and 5?
5, yeah.
God. I mean,
Give me a
especially
break.
if it's just season 5. If you came in season 5, what are you going to think of Lex? Really?
Wow, that's so true. Yeah, I was just thinking about.
I was just gonna say, back in the I don't know what they were, like message board days, and we used to have a lot of tribal wars, and it was, seasons 1 through 3 versus the 4 and 5ers, okay?
Yep.
And I've told you we've raped and pillaged many a town during those debates, and I would have, there were clearly new viewers in there who hadn't watched the first 3 seasons. They'd never seen them. They came in with seasons 4 and 5. And when they would express who their favorite characters were, they weren't original Mallrats.
No.
And of course, at the time, it was like, sacrilege! How dare you say Ved's an interesting character compared to so-and-so or whatever. But, in hindsight and looking back at it and thinking about it, it's like, no wonder those were their favorite characters. Those were the characters who were actually fleshed out and given dimensions in season 4 and 5.
Yeah.
Because the original Mallrats were not. You know what I mean? They were just coasting on their popularity from the past.
Yeah.
Even Amber swooping in. So many people who came into seasons 4 and 5 couldn't stand Amber. And I completely understand
You can
why.
see why. Yeah. Yeah, because she's
Like,
obnoxious.
she's obnoxious.
Yeah.
They don't have anything to go off of
No.
because most of the original characters are coasting off of what came before without even displaying that in who they are, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm just like that. And Ebony's speech, that's what it says. You know what I mean? This is a speech that you would only quite understand why Ebony would have any power over these people if you know the first 3 seasons and know how good she is with the mob. But if you just took this by itself, you wouldn't understand how Ebony gets anyone to listen to her with these lame ass speeches she's been giving since this season started. You wouldn't get it. You wouldn't have any clue how anybody voted for this woman to run their city. You would just assume this city really is full of idiot verts, I guess. You know, they're just brainless people running around. Wow, that's so depressing.
It is. Quickly, Lance, bring us out of this.
I can't. It's. I mean, no. The next scene doesn't even help because yeah, following on directly from Ebony's speech, she warns Lex not to police the Technos in his role as sheriff.
Deputy? I don't think so.
And what's wrong with me?
Well, if it was just babysitting, sweetheart, nothing. But police work is a completely different matter.
I can handle myself.
Why are you doing this? Cooperation was one thing, but total surrender is something else.
Everything is quiet now, and we have to keep it that way. Kid, the Technos will destroy us if we cross them.
So yeah, let's just focus on the kind of partnership here. What did you make of Lee and Dee? Sorry, what would you make of Lex and Dee?
Well, I love Lee and Dee. No. Well, let's be honest. This is Lex and Alice, but done without any sexual tension.
Oh, harsh.
You know.
Harsh but true. Harsh but true.
I mean, yeah, that's all this is. And the weird thing is, I think their interactions, you can tell when they're together that they feel very easy together, the two actors. They couldn't have gotten physically closer when they were walking along. And I like Dee's impression of Lex. But the thing is, they haven't had any other interactions before this, really, other than whenever she opens her mouth, Lex kind of shuts her down. That it feels forced, and it does. It feels like B-reel material for what we had with Alice and Lex, where they kind of built up their relationship. She didn't like him. He didn't really notice her. And then slowly their relationship grew and it became quite interesting. Whereas it already feels like, oh, now Dee's going to do a funny walk of Lex. And it's like, no, these people don't know each other that well. You can't be doing this yet, you know? But that's just me.
I agree. I actually did like the scene with Dee and Lex, but I think it has more to do with the natural chemistry between the actors than anything that's actually written. You know, I agree that it's just Lex and Alice, take two, and Boogaloo, and it doesn't have the same amount of depth or them getting to know each other. We know that eventually that this will also become an unrequited like love subplot. Except again, it won't have the depth. There isn't any good reason for why Dee will start to like Lex.
Yeah.
Whereas there was a lot building up to what attracted Alice to Lex.
Yeah.
Even if it's just based on the whole, maybe Alice thought, I like a guy I can fix. You know what I mean? Like, you could at least understand why Alice fell for him and the way he treated her and how they went from he was absolutely threatened and afraid of her, but showed her genuine respect compared to everybody else. And how that would convince someone like Alice that maybe there is something unique about her. Maybe she could get through to him. She was one of the only people he ever listened to. You know what I mean? There's none of that between Lex and Dee. Lex doesn't show anything that will convince me later that Dee gets a crush on him. I'm just like, you're too level-headed to fall for this guy. I don't get it. I have no idea what it is. They never seem to get that same, there's no level of respect. Lex doesn't really acknowledge Dee. She's just there, you know what I mean? So as much as I did like the scene, I think it has more to do with one, Dee is just really fun, the actress. Very playful and very natural at her playful energy, and clearly the actors had fun together, but it's not because their characters are written well together, in my opinion, at all. They're serviceable.
Yeah.
And it's been done better in the past.
Yeah.
Even though they're going to do basically the exact same thing with them. The only thing is Dee won't act on her feelings for Lex. That's basically the only difference, is that her feelings will remain unrequited and she'll stay quiet about it. That's it. So it doesn't go anywhere. But I don't mind seeing them together because, again, the actors have a nice playful energy between them that was, I mean, compared to what I'm dealing with in this episode, okay, this at least was amusing. I was amused in this moment,
Yeah.
like there's that. Like, if nothing else, the show should entertain you on some level,
Mm.
I should at least not feel like it's agony watching a scene. So I'm not saying like, oh, this is high praise indeed. But comparatively, this is not terrible. This is like, okay, I was amused. I smiled. Dee made me grin, and I thought that was cute. And it speaks to Dee's ability to read the room very quickly, her survival instincts, so that, okay, she's here to temper Lex. So at least they're showing that she was chosen well for this job to keep him out of trouble. That's what they said. And immediately she keeps him out of trouble and smooths this situation down. So I'm like, okay, at least I get why Ebony picked Dee, not only to spy on Lex, but to keep him out of trouble because she's made a deal with these Technos. You know what I mean? I'm like, all right, it's a serviceable scene that does its job.
I mean, it is nice to see them trying to do more with Dee as well, because for a while back there, it felt like they completely forgotten that she was a member of the cast now.
I
So
get what you mean.
it is
Yeah.
nice to see them trying to open it up. The only way I think this relationship would have actually worked is if they did it so that actually they do hook up, but then she still does picks who she chooses in the end and it's not Lex. I think that would have been fun because it would have been, you're giving us all the similar beats of Lex and Alice, but then you kind of pull the rug out from under us and it's like, oh wait, they've been hooking up the entire time. But that would have just been a gag, so it wouldn't have worked. But for me, that's the only thing that could have saved this, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I mean, it could have been quite interesting if they had gotten together, but then Dee was like, "Nah, it's actually not for me."
Yeah.
And
Or
then,
if
yeah.
she just, because Lex always thinks that he's going to be like any woman he's with, she immediately her life revolves around him. And it'd be interesting if actually Dee's like, oh, do you know what? I just got a text from somebody else, and he's just some guy. That would have been fun.
I would have actually liked that if she pulled a season 1 Tyson and was like, "Oh, I just wanted a taste.
Yeah.
I'm not into you like that, dude.
Yeah, it would have been
You're
a lot of fun.
like, you're hot, but, no, you're not you're not the guy I bring home to my parents. Are you kidding me?" You know?
And let's be honest, that is where Lex kind of got high-key obsessed with Tyson because she didn't when they first hooked up. He wasn't the center of her world. He was just some guy. She was Barbie and he became Ken. He only has a good day when she looks at him,
Like, "I wanted to last night. I don't now."
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
Lex is like, "I don't understand English. What?" I don't get it. But, yeah, I could have done with them either leaving it out completely. I mean, I don't mind the fact that she has a crush on him, but also recognizes he's not the guy. I suppose
Yeah.
that's not a bad way to handle that if you're gonna do it, that she's mature enough to recognize, "Hey, I can be attracted and have a crush on someone and know they're not right for me, and just go on with my life." That's actually subtle, you know what I mean? Because that happens all the time,
It's mature.
she doesn't let it wreck her life. She doesn't lose sleep over it, you know what I mean? She just gets over it
Mm,
without it being this big dramatic deal, so that's not bad. Again, the problem is that it's a retread of something we've already seen
yeah.
and was done better, and it doesn't really make sense for her to be into him at all at the end of the day. They don't give Lex enough to have her fall for him, but I suppose it doesn't take much. But still, I just either don't have it in there or just, because we've seen it before. This has been done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same dynamic, same energy,
Yeah,
only
they don't do enough.
Lex is half a person at this point,
Mm.
so it's not intriguing. And it kind of just does Dee a disservice that she'd fall for
Yeah.
this guy, who treats her like crap. That's the thing. It's not like his behavior towards her gets better for the most part.
No.
He's still very like discarding of her, and you're like, oh yeah, that must be so hot, I don't. At least he was nice to Alice, and that's why she was like, "Oh wow!" Like, there's a lot of reasons Alice
Yeah.
fell for Lex.
Yeah.
You get it, But with Dee and Lex, you're like, Dee, girl, what are you doing? You're way too level-headed to fall for this guy at all, to be attracted by
Mm.
any of his shenanigans. But again, at least she doesn't make a fool of herself, lose herself to it. She just says, "Oh, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna be keeping that to myself."
Yeah, speaking of love, Pride eventually finds Chloe's love note.
Remember what I told you about May? About how I didn't really love her? Well, I ended up hurting her. Much more than if we'd never gotten together. So you see, Chloe, I can't do that to you. I don't love you, and I'm not gonna lie to you.
But you don't know.
I want you to take this back. It's not for me.
Yeah, how successful do you think he was, panel?
As successful as he could possibly be, and be honest.
Mm.
People's feelings are gonna get hurt if you don't like them the way they like you. That's unavoidable.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what got him in trouble in the first place, is trying not to hurt someone's feelings because you don't want them to think you're a terrible person, blah, blah, blah. At least he learned from that and recognizes, don't you dare do this with a 14-year-old girl. Don't you dare, okay? Like, thank you. I appreciated that. This is the best you can hope for if you're going to have to let somebody down. If you don't feel the same way, this is the best way. He's very gentle, he's very kind, and he reminds her, last time I lied to somebody and told them what they wanted to hear, I hurt them. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that to you. I don't return your feelings, and I'm sorry. Save this for someone who's deserving of it. It's the same way when Zandra had to let Ryan down. Ryan, you deserve someone great. I'm sorry it can't be me. I just don't feel that way about you. Like, even Zandra was self-aware that, dude, just be honest with somebody because their feelings are going to get hurt regardless. But at least this way you were being honest from the start. And so I was like, thank you. Thank you for not dragging this out. Thank you for being the frickin' man you're supposed to be and letting this child down before this gets out of hand. Did anyone else get secondhand embarrassment being reminded of their 9th grade self reading that letter? Ah! Oh, the poetry days. Oh, the poetry days. Oh, I wrote so many poems at this age and they were all this bad.
I think it is very sweet, though, her crush on him, even though she doesn't really know him. But maybe that helps because she doesn't really know him. So,
Boy.
and I agree with Liz. I think this is actually putting Pride in quite a good light, the way he lets her down, and that he's honest about May, and the fact that he doesn't feel that way about Chloe. And it feels like he's taken something away from everything he did wrong with May. Which
Well, don't
I
give
know,
him too much credit.
no, we're not going to give him too much credit. But in this scene, that's what it feels like. In this one scene, it feels like that to me, at least. But
Well, I mean,
yeah,
he's the only guy they have left in the Mallrats, really. And so, I mean, they were like, oh, we actually have room to, make him a decent human being. So, because I guarantee if the mall was still full up, if we hadn't lost half the cast, Pride wouldn't be getting this. He'd still be douching it around. But he's got to be the dad of the tribe. So,
yeah, because Bray's gone, so
yeah.
we need that slot filled. Yeah.
Ryan's not here, so
Yeah,
it's gotta be
Ryan's not
Pride.
here. Yeah, exactly.
There's just not enough guys to spread it around, There
Yeah,
used to be a lot of
yeah.
guys. You could
And now
spread it
there aren't
around.
any, really.
None.
No,
And they didn't give Lex any.
no. Well, they weren't going to, were they? Let's be honest.
That is so messed up. There's
Oh,
literally
that's just
2
crazy.
male Mallrats left. And that meant there's tons of room now to spread
Yeah,
the traits around. And Lex got none. They were like, nah,
No.
sorry. I'm giving
That's
you
really
any.
crazy, yeah.
It's crazy.
I said this before, so it's a shame.
he's firmly just comedy, embarrassment, and occasionally something hot. Like he's going to do something hot. He's going to be a romantic,
Lex is turned into a himbo. Like, that's
Yeah.
all he's here for. And I can't get over when I think about when Lex had to share the scene, share the stage with all of these other male characters in the mall, and
Yeah.
yet every single one of them was still so distinct
Yep.
and growing in their own way. And yet, when there's literally only two of them in the mall, they were like, "Yeah, we only have a few sprinkles left of character development, and Lex, you don't get any of it."
Yeah, and it's crazy because it feels like where we should now be opening up them all, seeing characters that were a bit neglected, or like for instance, Pride. Pride, because he had to be, as you guys have said, as we have said often, because he had to be everything that Amber wasn't going to choose. She had to choose Bray, so they kind of dial down. They make Pride awful towards the end of season 3, so that the logical choice is there is no of course she's going to go with Bray, instead of making it interesting and making him maybe a better choice for Amber, and Amber choosing Bray anyway. But we've talked about that. But so instead of actually giving him a character, they just give him traits like you say. We need a dad because Ryan and Bray have gone, so he's going to get that. We need the voice of sense because Bray's gone, so we need him to do that. You know, we need that comedy element that we used to get from Jack, and we used to get from Ned, and we used to get from Ryan. Well, Lex can carry that. And instead of opening up some space between these characters, you know, Selene's got Amber's personality now. We've talked about the grief, that it's really well done with Ellie, but like we said, if it was less done, it would just feel like Selene again, or a little bit of Trudy even in there. And it
Yep.
just feels, instead of trying to work with the characters you actually have and looking at them as they were when we first saw them in season 1, if we had them in season 2, right? Instead of actually saying, what would Selene do in this situation now that she is faced with being the leader of the mole rats? Selene is the leader. What's Selene like as a leader? Instead of saying, like, Lex now has to take more of the responsibility in terms of parenting. What is Lex like as a parent? We've seen him parent KC, but imagine him trying to parent Chloe. You know, that's really interesting. I would have loved to have seen that. But instead, we, like you say, we just get little bits in there, like spread so thin. And it's, these are the things that we're missing now. We'll just shove them onto you. And it's, yeah, oh God, like as you said, Liz, you can see why people were not saying, oh, Selene in season 4 is my favourite character, or Lex in season 4 is my favourite character. Because, yeah, why would you? They're not.
Even with only a handful of Mallrats left, they still weren't interested in them.
Yeah.
And you'd think there'd be more room, like you said, to explore some of these, tertiary characters, now that the main ones are gone. But
Yeah.
they were only interested in the Technos and Ebony. That's it.
I'll never forgive them for abandoning Lex, because
No.
he'd have had such a great journey. But
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, this could really have been his season, really, because now that Bray's out of the way, now that Amber's gone, we could have seen more of him, and a different version of him, someone who's taken away the lessons that he learnt with Alice, the lessons that he learnt with Tysan, the way that he, somebody who's actually evolved, learned, still has that element of his character, but has also changed, is a bit more responsible.
just some kind of growth. I would have accepted anything, but which doesn't grow. It doesn't get
Yeah.
anything.
Well, no, I mean, he goes backwards, let's be honest.
Goes backwards,
He
yeah.
de-evolves as a character. He de-evolves, he becomes less interesting.
And you know what? I wouldn't even have minded. I would have minded, but I wouldn't even have minded as much if there had been a strong reason for why he had devolved. Like, you know what I mean? If there had been a really traumatic event, or they'd given him something to play off of, but we don't.
Yeah.
Get...
And we have that traumatic event at the start. Tysan
yeah,
gets
but it's just
taken
ignored.
away.
It's just swept away.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what could have been the inciting incident. Tysan gets taken away, and Lex just essentially says, I give up. I'm just going to sit here and drink, and I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'm just putting up every wall I've got.
That's another thing. Yeah.
And it's not like they don't have the room for it, but he's a different character in every single one of these episodes.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally every episode he's been in, it's been a different emotion. It's been a different. So, like, where are you, Lex? I don't understand.
Like when this episode opens and you see Ellie, and it's even before she opens her mouth, you can tell her headspace, which has been consistent from the start. And Lex comes over to her just chomping on an apple, so he looks even more like an a-hole. And is just like, "Hey, what's up?"
Oh yeah. Mm.
And you're just like, "I'm sorry. What is with? Why aren't you more upset? The attack, the last chance to get your wife failed yesterday. Do you not have any response to that? None? You don't have an emotional response to realizing that that was your last chance to get your wife? Like, it'd be different if you said, I'm not giving up, yeah, we failed that battle, attack didn't work, but, I know she's still out there and I'm not going to give up, or fine, you could say he's just being an optimist or something or whatever. But he literally has nothing to say. Lex has no response to his last chance getting the love of his life back, and then can't, on top of that, understand why Ellie's in a mood today. Like, what the? Who is this guy?
Ned, is that you?
Like, even in season 3, when he's trying to sleep with everything, he at least, when characters are looking at him like, Lex, you remember your wife still at the mall? He at least said something about it. You know what I mean? Like, he would just try to defend himself, or like acknowledge that, like, if Ebony called him out, like, is that a pregnant woman you're flirting with, Lex? And he'd say something like, well, my wife's at the mall, a man has needs, blah, 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 something to acknowledge what is happening. And here is Lex the morning after he has failed to secure his wife, and he's eating an apple. Everything's cool.
Everything's cool. Just...
He's the most unbothered. He is more upset when he runs into a couple of Technos because they brushed his shoulder.
Mm.
Now, if
Yeah.
you wanted me to believe that Lex is a ticking time bomb under all this, and he's just keeping but no, there's nothing going on upstairs. He is just whoever they need him to be from episode to episode. Like,
Yeah.
what the? This is bad. This is terrible characterization. I don't even think the writers know who he's supposed to be.
Oh wow, this is so depressing.
Hold on to your hats, because we have one fantastic.
Oh, here it comes!
Here it comes! Ooh, okay, composure. So that leads us to our final thoughts of the episode.
Well, if it isn't little Miss Tin Face. Why are you following me?
I wasn't.
If this is Ram's idea of some kind of a joke.
No! I swear.
What do you want from me? Free makeup tips? A more natural look? Okay, let's check out your skin problem. Let's see who you are.
No!
She passes on a supposed request to meet from Jay and manages to get away without being recognised. While later on, a delighted Ebony prepares for the upcoming meeting. Panel. Okay, panel, we have to talk about the utter stupidity of this scene. So, Ebony is face to face with Java, hears her voice, is spoken to, sees directly at her, and does not recognise her. Like, we've talked about the kind of the age range of how the writers are treating the audience, but this takes the cake. Like, what did you make of this scene?
She didn't recognize her, Lance. 25% of her face is still covered up, okay? I don't know about you, but I need the whole face to understand who I'm looking at. I need the whole face. But see, you see, there's only 75% of her face is visible. I completely understand.
I got no words.
I got nothing.
The weirdest thing for these masks, though, is the fact that half the face is missing. So they want us to know that Java and Siva are Ebony's sisters. Because, I mean, look at them. Right? They clearly are. They all look alike. They all sound alike. I mean, maybe they're cousins, but there's a familiar, they are related to one another. 3 super attractive girls who all get their hair done at the same place and who all sound the same. They're probably related. Okay? But the weirdest thing is that we saw, when we were talking about Lex getting banged into by those other Technos, they had those face coverings that cover more of the face. Why have we got Phantom of the Opera with Java and Siva so that, we can see half their face? Everyone can see half their face. You've got people like Jay said, to Ebony, have I seen you somewhere before? Yeah, because you work with almost two identical types of her in the office every day. You like see her face at least twice a day, right? Of course you've seen her before. Why didn't they just give them those masks that cover up, the eyes, that whole portion of the head, from the forehead to the nose, to at least
No,
then
no, no, no.
make it
Even if they gave her a whole face, how can you not recognize your sister? Even if a
still,
full mask,
still,
that's
even if they had
come
given them
on.
that, I could have credited it because Ebony doesn't
No,
expect them
come
to be
on.
back, does
It's
she?
been what, a
But
year?
this is
A year and a half since
ridiculous.
the Locos? Like, come on.
This is ridiculous, though. Don't get me on that timeline. That timeline is insane. But this is
And the
ridiculous.
voice,
The
and the
fact that
voice.
she's got
You
her
can't even recognize your own
hand
sister's voice.
on her face. Her face is in her face. Their face is one face. What is going on? I've heard of face blindness, but this is ridiculous. Does Ebony not recognize herself in the morning?
I can't.
When she puts her makeup on, is she like, who's that?
I literally can't
Sorry.
wrap my head around this. I'm trying to think about this from like a pragmatic filming point of view, right?
There
And I'm
isn't.
thinking, okay, maybe when they were writing this, again, season 4, you sound great on paper. You sound reasonable on
That is the
paper.
tagline of this season. Great on paper.
Great on paper. I thought about this. If you were writing this, somebody wrote this, thinking, all right, these young women, Ebony won't ever get a chance to see their faces. You know what I mean? Like on paper, Ebony not recognizing her sister because her face is covered up doesn't sound unreasonable, right? Okay. And as Tamsin just said, there were other masks they could use to make that even remotely plausible that she wouldn't recognize her sister. Somebody on that set decided, no, no, no. We want the Phantom of the Opera because we want the audience to know. We want the audience to recognize how much they look alike. And I guarantee there was somebody going, but wouldn't Ebony? I wouldn't even be surprised if Meryl herself was like, wouldn't I recognize my sister? Because actors, they ask questions when they have to film things, when they read the script, and they wonder, and they get shot down by directors all the time. The actor will be like, gee, this sounds stupid. And they'll be told, shut up. And so I just feel like when this was written, somebody was like, yeah, of course. We're going to make sure the girls' faces are covered up. And it makes perfect sense that Ebony doesn't recognize her sister. And, it'll be, and then somebody swooped in and was like, no, 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 no. No, this is going to be a Clark Kent Superman situation. Those glasses make all the difference in the world. I'm telling you. And I couldn't get over how stupid everything in this scene was from, Siva's
Yeah.
following her. I was like, oh, so that inability to sneak behind people runs in the family. That's awesome. Good to see. I like that. I like that consistency. That's nice to know. And then, yeah, Ebony could not be closer to her own sister's face unless they were merged. You know what I mean?
It's crazy.
So close. And there is not an inkling of recognition. I can't walk into a party and notice somebody wearing the same dress as me without doing a double take.
Yeah. Yeah.
The same dress. Like, oh, no, we did not. We did not shop in the same place. Oh, my goodness. You know what I mean? And this girl is holding up somebody with her face and her hair and a voice she should recognize.
A voice you can't even. Yeah. Oh, it's just so stupid.
She can see both of Siva's eyeballs. You know what I mean? It is that you can't tell me that they don't think the audience is dumb as a box of rocks. Okay, you can't tell me that they don't think that about us. Okay.
Yeah.
Just it frustrates me on so many levels. Like, okay, you didn't recognize the face, you didn't recognize the voice, you attacked a techno actually for some random reason. Like, just on every level, it just doesn't work. This whole scene, I don't get why they thought it would work. Everything
about it. I mean, we literally just watched Ved and Jay doing a tracking shot on Ebony. I was like, oh, I love this. I love this. Like, okay, it's one thing when they're watching it through the camera at the hotel, but it's another when she's walking out of the hotel and there's a camera like tracking her.
Right, yeah.
I was like, really? Really? Oh my goodness. The stupidity I'm supposed to buy about the cameras in the city. Okay, so we know the boys are watching her. We know Ved is already obsessed with her. Gee, I wonder, maybe because she looks like the other two women you're obsessed with, Ved? Have you put two and two together? Right? Right? And so, Siva, what makes you think that she isn't still being watched and that you're being watched following her? I thought Ram was not supposed to know about this. Shouldn't you be wearing a disguise or something? Like, everything about the scene is the dumbest thing ever. Everything about it is so stupid. I didn't think they could top Ebony staring into a camera for 4 to 6 hours, expecting Jay to
Sorry.
assume that means she wants to have a conversation. No, they topped it. This is wow. This is comically stupid. Like this is you riff on this. This is what you do. Like this is so dumb. It's entertaining. Can't I can't. Like I laughed out loud. I was like, I cannot wait. I'm just watching the scene with my mouth was just open. Like this is insanity. This is the audience literally can't have spatial awareness. Like they have to think people disappear when they can't see them anymore to buy the scene.
Oh God, can you imagine?
It's
Like
like
that's
a
how
baby playing peekaboo.
right.
It's just gone, just gone. That awareness is just gone. Oh, no, where
No
are they?
no object permanence. Like that's how stupid you gotta be. Smooth brained to
Is that
watch this
what you
and
think
not
of
have
us?
questions. Yeah,
Is that what
apparently.
you think of us? Like,
I
honestly,
don't
like,
know. I would add to that though. There's still a level of violence in the tribe. That if that is the case, then this is really concerning because they think it's like toddlers watching it, but there's also people getting beaten up. Yeah, I don't know. It's wild. This show is wild. It's become wild. It's insane.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
crazy.
I don't know who this is for. I really don't. I don't there was a time when I understood each season what they were aiming at, the age group, what they were censoring, how they were getting their messages across, how they were tackling
Yeah.
these subjects. And this time, just this scene alone, I'm like, I don't know who this is for. I don't know how dumb your audience has to be to not have questions about this. I it's so insulting. It's wow, this is so insulting. And I mean, it's not like the show hasn't been insulting to its audience before, but
This is, yeah.
this, it really this episode should be called "You're an Idiot and You're Gonna Keep Watching," and they're not wrong. They're not wrong because the audience kept watching. They kept watching.
I mean, what else can
Well,
you say?
okay. It's just insulting. It's just sad. It's like, no, okay, I got no more words. It's just so sad. This is my show. This is what's
Yeah,
happened to it.
the rating literally went to leave your brain at the door. I'm like, wow, I am wow. I oh, okay. Back to season 1 I go. You know, I'm done. I quit. Holy
You're
crap.
stuck. You can't go nowhere. We're all suffering
Oh,
through this.
wow. I mean,
Oh man.
the subject matter has been completely watered down. We're 7 episodes in, and everything has been all the edges have been smoothed out, except, they might have like an edgy comment here and there.
Mm.
But as for the actual action and what's actually happening, there really isn't anything happening that it is in line with where the tribe was willing to go. Season 2 starts with an explosion that kills 2 young women, one of which was with child. That is how the second season starts. You know what I mean? Season 3 starts with a group of kids being held captive by a cult. And in that moment, discovering that one of their leaders likely
Mhm.
was murdered on that beach. That is how
Let's
season
not
3
forget
starts.
that the first episode starts with a stoning. We've got that kid who's tied up again, and they're throwing rocks at it.
And season 4 has just been the mild takeover.
Yeah.
And everybody's cool with it.
Mild takeover. That's a good.
After everything these kids have been through, they don't react in a feral way to this colonization. They're just like, we've seen worse.
it's not even like they've realized after the failed attack that there isn't anything that they can do. So it's not even like they're going to say, okay, so we know that we can't attack them up front. Could we do something else? Could we do some, like terrorism, that sort of thing? Could we guerrilla war, because we know this city and they don't, and they, what are their supply lines like? Could we mess some stuff up for them? Or you don't even get conversations like that taking place, which are the ones that you would have. You'd be like, okay, so we can't fight them up front. We know that now. We've seen what their capabilities are compared to us. Can we fight them behind the scenes? And then there'd be other people who are just like, nah, I'm just going to give up because actually, I can't get my friends back. So, I'm hardened to it now. But you don't even get that. It's just like, yeah, Ebony said the thing. What did she say? I can't remember, but it was good. That's the level.
We have a character who has lost one wife to an explosion, lost his
Yep.
child. His second wife has been kidnapped, and he was literally told, "Oh, we're going to put her in a harem."
Yeah.
By people we know already keep women as property.
Yep.
And he's eating an apple in this episode. Like, I just can't get over this tone. And I don't understand how anybody could watch those first 3 seasons and then tell me that season 4 is the same show.
It's not.
Like,
And I also
don't
add,
try to convince me that this is still the same show. You can like it, and that is fine. I won't take that from you. But don't gaslight me into thinking I'm the crazy one who just doesn't get the new direction. This is not the same show on any level.
100%. You're absolutely right. You can like it, but it's not the same. It is not the same.
I would also add to what you guys have said, and going back to that comment about Lex and the Taisan and the harem. The thing is, we as the audience know that Fed was bull, that it's not true. We're actually told that. Jay says to him, "What the hell were you talking about?" But Lex doesn't know that. Lex shouldn't know that. He shouldn't be privy to what we know. And it's almost as if the writers have forgotten how to write. That all the characters suddenly are privy to, like, going back to the whole Ebony thing with Amber. The fact that everybody knows about Eagle Mountain and they know about all the Ned stuff. They know that she knew and was complicit in their kidnap. That everybody's like, oh yeah, we knew about that. When did you know about this? We knew about this. The audience, you didn't know about that.
Not only do they behave like they know about it, they just shrug it off.
Oh, it's insane. It's insane.
Like, these aren't characters, and they're not the characters we knew. They're just pieces on a board doing what the script needs them to do. It's what the plot demands.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lex is not having a real reaction to what's going on because the plot demands that he doesn't. So he just doesn't.
Yeah.
SALENE is now mother of the tribe because the plot demands that she has to be this person now.
Yeah.
There's only room for one of you to have a breakdown, and we're giving it to Ellie. Probably because Jennifer's going to be leaving for a while. You know what I mean? Like, that's it. They are just being moved by a plot.
Yeah.
They're not character driven at all. I hate that the Technos are more developed than the people we spent 3 years with.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
that's mad.
they're going to get rode back on. Let's be honest. That's not it. That's some of the Technos are going to be developed, like Ved, and some of the Technos, like Java, and to some extent SIVA, are not going to get developed. So even then, you can't necessarily just say that because they give up on some of these new characters, and you're thinking, oh my god, you couldn't even stay the course with them.
Oh yeah. I rate this episode as mediocre. It's not the worst. It's not good. It has some scenes. It's, like I said, Jennifer Newell, she carries the whole episode. She's the only emotional core we have.
Yeah.
It's got some decent scenes, but mostly they're just doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing the bare minimum a scene should. It's got one shot that I think is pretty iconic and a great laugh that turns everything into a joke, but it's just a mediocre episode. And I'm waiting for an episode that makes me eager. Since the opener, I have yet reached an episode where I'm eager to see what comes next. That's just where I am. Like the premiere, I was like, that's a decent premiere. I would keep watching if I watched that premiere. But every episode after, I've just been like, okay, let's watch this to see what happens next. But I'm not eager to. I'm not looking forward to it. I mean, I'm looking forward to talking to you guys about it. You guys are keeping my sanity through this, but
Yeah.
I'm not eager to follow the story because I know Lex is going to be a completely different next episode. You know, probably. His through line just all over the place. I just wow. I'm sorry, season 4 fans. I'm trying. I'm trying so hard.
That brings Series 4, Episode 7 to a close. Thank you very much to the panel, and you can show your support by clicking on that like and subscribe and following us on all the major platforms. You can also leave us a comment or get in touch if you'd like to take part in a future episode of the podcast yourself. Just search for the tribe.co.uk or Conversations on Eagle Mountain. You can also throw us a donation. Just head on over to buymeacoffee.com/thetribe.co.uk. And we'll see you next time for episode 8. Until then, bye.
Bye.
I already miss Ned.